Now I can just see Brian QLA Rose sitting in the stagecoach. Dun, 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 dun. And it'd be interesting to see what he's wearing when he shows up. Just a guess. Brian, I hope you learned something. You don't show up in your fucking clip-clops and your fucking t-shirts. Although I wear, and I've been filmed, you see me, I've got the London Rio sweatshirt, and I'd like to change it. It's a journey part of it, but I wear it. Now, any questions on any of the business cases that we've done so far? Okay. The final bit of the seminar is going to be as soon as the sheriffs come and pick up Greg and take him away. And we will all say, well, that is too bad. And then Christoph I did not rate him anyway. I did not rate him anyway. It's too bad. And unfortunately, that's what happens with the boards, guys. I wish I'd like to be able to tell you a myth, a lie, that they all hang with you. But that would be a myth and a lie. They just don't. And it's not because they came on the board to fuck you, but they don't have the stomach for a fight, basically. And if you present them, if you put them in a corner where it's you or them, I guarantee we did not rate him anyway, and that's how it's going to go. But the key to this deal is the dream team. Now, okay, what do you want me to play out? What are some of your last apprehensions? Because I know you've got apprehensions still, but that I can show you, and for film, how it's done so it's successful. Remember, first thing is, I'll start on something else. When I used to give presentations and I was cold calling the buildings in Manhattan near Wall Street, and I wouldn't look up at the top, see how tall the building was. Because if I looked up at how tall the building was, I'd fucking never get to the second floor. And before I go into the office, I used to slap myself to get the blood in my face, to get the blood working. I used to dry my hands like this. And then I'd go in and I'd do my elevator pitch, as it's called now. So I've done that countless times, and that's why I'm so good at it now. But when you walk in to see the lawyers, the accountants, whoever, and if you're not walking into the buildings, you're seeing their websites, and then you're Googling them, and you're looking at what they have on their site. And he may be a skier, she may be a tennis player. One of the healthcare professionals, which is a partner at PwC, I remember she was a tennis player, and the guy said she's still a tennis player. I think she was an All-American tennis player in university when she was at University of Texas. You use all these things to gain some rapport. You don't spend an hour doing it, but you should be better prepared. You must be better prepared than they are when you walk in the door. For those of you that are doing it Skype or whatever, you should still be better prepared. You should still know more about them than they know about you. And the same thing when I was talking to Kira's to potential COOs, Weatherford, Texas, Alabama, et cetera, and even if you've never been there and you don't know anybody, know something about the area. Weatherford, Texas is a fucking stretch because there's nothing there, but it's more or less a shithole. But a lot of these rural places, though they may be a shithole because you're from New York or Los Angeles, they're not a shithole to them. That's their home. We've been teasing Weed Man because it's up there in Peckerhead country, and that's a derogatory term, but it's still going to be a very, very lucrative area once legalization, et cetera, for marijuana comes to be. So you got to do your homework. But once that's done, and you draw the line in the sand, then you got to practice. And when Rox was listening to those things and showing you what he listens to daily, it brings to mind, and I've told you, the kids now listen to the stuff at night. Headsets. Okay. Now I'm going to go through some simple things I've told you from the beginning, not this seminar, but the last seminar. And the guys that are the most successful say the most affirmations, number one. The most vivid affirmations, the most bodacious affirmations that are based on their goals. I gave you a way how to say affirmations and how to make goals from the last seminar. It's in your slides. It's also on my website. Number two, the most successful stand at their desk. Stand at their desk. I'm going to say it again. Stand at their desk. They have standing desks. Okay? The more successful that stand at their desk, walk on a treadmill. Walk on a treadmill. And for some of you that got to lose a few pounds, Rox, myself included, and the perfect speed seems to be 4 kilometers an hour. Now, I think that's for younger guys. I'm not so sure, because 4 kilometers an hour is when I do it, but I'm walking at 15 degrees. I mean, it's quick. And I mean, flat. It's flat treadmill. It's not like this. Sally does an hour at 15 degrees at 4 miles an hour, not 4 kilometers an hour. So they do the treadmill flat. They learn to sleep less. They learn to sleep less. The kids sleep basically between 4 and 7 hours. The older ones sleep to 7 hours. The younger ones sleep 4 hours. They normally have 1 day a week they sleep more to rejuvenate their body. Some of the older guys need 2 days a week, and they use the weekend because it's harder to contact people. The most successful people work 7 days a week. And if they want to take off time with their family, it's 2 or 3 hours on a Sunday, 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday, or whatever that. It doesn't have to be those days, but that's normally when the kids are home from school and you can see them, etc., etc. The most successful guys that have come through the program stay focused, but pivot early. They stay focused and pivot early. They don't beat a fucking dead horse to death. I mean, a dead horse to death because it's already dead. And they don't get involved in anything that they don't love, that they don't enjoy. Now, if you don't love and you don't enjoy in the 5th or 6th week, then, I mean, you better pivot because it's not going to get any better the next 60 weeks. Now, for the occasional person that is, like myself, a transaction junkie, I like the high of the hunt, the kill, and moving on. A few people are like that. But most people, want to do something they like. Do something they like. If you are a transaction junkie, then more power to you. Because then you don't have to love anything, I've always said, I love the ones I'm with, whether they're, well, anyway, we don't have to go into that. I love the ones that I'm with. But I've been like that since I'm a young kid. Next, the words matter. I told you, and my good friend and first seminar attendee, Ted Nicholas, he wrote a book about that. But it's always I did, or I'm gonna, not if we. No ifs in your language. And for sure, no ifs in your affirmations. I mean, it's absolute. It's 100%. Remember, act as if you have no limits to your abilities. Those guys, now they don't act like I act with no limits to your abilities because they don't have the experience I have. But I mean, Peter Sage is a pretty polished guy, But I remember when he was 21 years old, this is an exaggeration, Peter, with snot hanging out his nose and he couldn't talk. But I mean, now he's, he's a bon vivant raconteur, and he's very polished. And the communication skills are really important. I tell people the best guys in current crop of best guys go to Toastmasters. They go to improvisation, they're acting. They belong to the what are those clubs? Kiwanis, and what's the other one? Rotary, yeah. Kiwanis and Rotary. And they volunteer to do speeches. I think Christoph is doing some of that. And not just Christoph, but I remember from the report. And it works. The two best sales courses, and Warren Buffett and I have something in common. We both took Dale Carnegie's sales course. Sales 1, I think it is. And I mean, it's very fundamental, but it's very good. Because back in the day when Mr. Buffett was trying to raise money, he couldn't raise any money. And because everybody asked him, well, what does your dad think? Because his dad was an influential investment guy. Not dissimilar to Derek. I can only imagine what they asked Derek when they Google and they look into Peña. Oh, who's this Dan Peña? And then Derek, in the 9th page, they get down to him. But I took that course, and I'm told by the kids now that the Wolf of Wall Street sales course is pretty good. I haven't taken it or used it, but they say it's pretty good. I don't know. But to polish your sales skills. But your communication skills are crucially important, whether you're seeing them in person or you're Skyping them or whatever, or just even on the phone. When you get down to the very end of putting the dream team together, eventually you have a board meeting. And remember, I tell you, don't have a board meeting unless you have something to talk about. I know some of you in this room have already had board meetings. I don't know what the fuck you talked about, but I do know you're normally pressed into the board meetings, you feel, by the other directors because they want to know the strategy, they want to know this, they want to know that. What they really want to know is they want to see the eyeballs of the other people. That's what they really want. That's fine. And I've attended some of your board meetings in this room, and that's okay. But the real reason to have a board meeting is to talk about the first acquisition, when it's going to close, when it's going to do this, and to introduce your accountants and your lawyers to the board in person. And we've also had bankers at these board meetings that have given you kind of a blanket, tacit approval, 50 million, 100 million, whatever the number is, to be there. So the board feels comfortable. The accountants and the lawyers who probably sent you to these banks feel comfortable because they want you to believe that you're actually listening to their advice. Everybody up there uses success fees. I've told you someplace on the planet I'm involved in a success fee on all the top 4 accountants and 15 of the 20 top law firms. So as Tony Robbins would say, and I agree with this, success leaves clues. So I've just given you a whole bunch of things that the most successful guys and gals use and do, and many of which, although the modern techniques of internet I didn't have, they use. But you heard in the last few days, you heard Rox, who's reasonably articulate. He's not, he's not me. He's not Peter Sage, but he doesn't chew his tongue when he's talking. But more than anything, he practiced, and I don't know if he's sharing. He's got pretty bodacious goals about what he wants to accomplish, and he just keeps on pushing, irrespective of what everybody says. By his own admission, he had a lot of negative shit that he had to go through, as some of you have already had negative shit. Why did you quit your job? Why did you do this? Why weed? Why this? It doesn't. They've all got a question. And quite frankly, they will not be disappointed if you quit. They won't be. Down deep inside, they'll be happy. Because that puts less pressure on them. That puts less pressure on them. And for the 2 Hispanics in the room, the only way that I could get away from that is get away. And that's why I came here 35 years ago. And not because I didn't love my family, but I knew that I couldn't deal with that and do what I wanted to do both at the same time. I couldn't. And I didn't.